All right. Um, so it looks, as I said, I think everybody who's here right now has finished the warm up programming exercise. So if you want to tune me out for the next 10 minutes or so, that's up to you. All right. But maybe there's something maybe I'll do it slightly different than you did it, and you'll get something out of it. All right. But I'm recording this so that I can upload it Wednesday, and we'll go from there. All right. So let me share my screen. Share content. All right. Everybody see that? Let me hide that. My complaining to James. You don't want to see that.
Yeah, we see it.
Awesome. I'm going to change a tab now. Tell me how long I'm changing it. Tell me I want to see how long the lag is. I'm changing now.
Just saw it.
Yeah,
Cool.
it just
Awesome.
went. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think because I'm not recording to the cloud this time. I think that was really slowing it down. So that's good. Um, so let's get started. James will. Nah, he'll be James. All right. So I'm gonna open that up from last time. Um, wow, while it's opening up, I'll go over these. Let's see. God, all right. I've got to set some settings. Mac has got really anal about their security settings lately, so everything's got to be. You have to give everything permission to record. That was what we had. That was the issue we had with the WebEx. So, how do I do that? Are you serious? If that's not recording, I'll be mad. It's not. Screen recording. There it is. Something. Right. I'll figure that out in a little bit. Let me just go over these notes here. The packet pub issue with the book hasn't been solved. I haven't heard back from my boss about whether he's going to do the subscription. We're going to move on without that book. So if you want to finish up in that book, you can send me questions about it, and I can answer them as best I can without the book. I think I can answer most of them, but forging ahead in that book without a book on my end is kind of stupid. So I do have the cookbook, so we're going to just go into that and start working there. And in the future, I don't know that I'm going to use Packet Pub at all because it kind of pissed me off. Do y'all remember using any file notepad? It's basically a simple text editor that you can use in Google Drive. I shared code with you last semester, and it's everybody remember that?
I think I do a little bit. A little bit.
Can I see the chat while I'm in here? Let's see. It's not. It's kind of screwed up. All right. Let's see. anyway, you should have access to this file here. I'm going to put code scraps here. That way I can share them. I can share code with you directly. Also, there's a folder, this folder here, right there. This folder here is shared with you, right? It has that little icon. If it's a CS file, it's a code file, and you can open it. You can right-click and say open with, right, and any file notepad. If yours doesn't say any file notepad, you need to connect more apps and then search for that and connect it to Google Drive, and then you can use it. We used it last semester, so hopefully that's not foreign to you, but actual files that I create, I can dump right in here, and then you can open them in your browser and look along with the code that's going to help, especially in this virtual teaching environment, because my code is not always going to be on the screen for you to look at, and that way you can see what we're doing even if I don't have my code on the screen, right? All right. All right, so that's what I have to give up. Now the warm-up. I'm going to stop my recording to see if it's recording. Sorry about that. All right, so where were we? I think we had the countdown counting down. I'll do this as quickly as possible because I think you've all finished it, and the person who's not here is the only one who has it. All right, so I had it counting down, but I did not have the game over screen showing up. In that shared folder, where is it? I created a game over PNG. If you want to use that, which I'm assuming you've all created your own, so you don't have to use that. But again, this is for the person who's not here. I'll say, hey, James, for him when he watches it later. If you want to download that, it looks it's awesome. Black screen with game over on. All right. And it should be, yes, it's in here. That's what it looks like. So there's my code as it stood before. All right, so let's just run it. Remind myself where we were. So we got this awesome countdown. It counts down, but it doesn't stop when it gets to 0, which is not what we want, right? There we go. All right. All right, so we need something to show up when it's all over, right? So I'll just create a UI panel. All right. And on that panel, this image here, right? I'm going to create the game over. There we go. And the panel is semi-transparent, so we'll just do that. Make it completely opaque. And then we can just disable it for now, right? I'll be a good game developer and call it Game Over Panel, because you should always name your things. And I'll, in fact, name this Countdown Text. All right. So we have a panel that we can turn on and off, so we just need to go into our code and reference that, right? So we'll say public game object game over panel. All right, and I'll save that. Switch back to Unity. Go to my main camera. It should be. Yeah. There we go. That took a while. Game over panel. I spelled that wrong. What the hell? All right. Let me change that. That's bugging me. Trying to type too fast. So that's good. So now we have a reference to the game over panel. We can turn it on and off when we need to, right? I think the wise thing to do here, actually, I'm going to throw this in our shared code folder because I told you that I would do that, right? So that's there. Throw this into this folder, right? And now I'll show you, like, if y'all don't remember doing this, right? You right-click, open with any file notepad. All right. So now you have access to that code anytime you need it. So I will switch back here. Oops. All right. It's always why this is so simple that you could probably put all of this functionality in the update function, but you should get used to creating functions when you need them, and having a game over function is very wise, right? So public void handle game over, right? So when the game is over, you can call this function and do whatever you need to do when the game is over. And this is very common to have a game over function because obviously most games end at some point, right? And it's a very important milestone in the game loop, so to speak. All right. So let's see. I'll just say debug log. It's always good to do this, right? That's just for debugging purposes. And we're going to say when the game is over, we just want to enable, right, the game over panel, and then it'll pop up. So we'll say game over panel. It is set active. Yes. I'm almost getting to the point where I can remember doing that, right? True. So game objects you set active, and components you enable or disable, right? That's something that used to be. It used to be everything was enabled, disabled. A few years ago they changed that. All right. That's really all we have to do there, because it's going to cover up our countdown anyway. There might be some other things you would want to do, but in our case, we're just going to go with that, right? Let's see. Right, so in our update, we just need to test to see if the time is less than or equal to 0, and then we call that function, right? And we'll talk about some issues with the way I'm doing it here in a second. All right, so but we say if countdown is less than or equal to 0, right? And I always put curly brackets, even though, right, what I'm doing here only requires one line. I could have done it without the curly brackets, but we know what the issues are there, right? So we're going to say handle game over and not colon semicolon. All right. So I'll take that, I'll throw it there, I'll update that. That should update in real time. Let's see. Let's refresh it. You might have to refresh it. Yeah, there it is. All right. Okay, so now it should be ready to go. Ta-da! All right, and that's really all you have to do. What are possibly some issues with the way this is done? Anybody got any ideas? Any way of improving this? How did y'all do anything differently?
Instead of making the panel appear, I just had it loaded new scene.
Oh, you loaded a new scene.
Better or worse?
Well, that's cool. I mean, that is one way of doing it. What might be an issue with that? If you load a new scene, I mean, if it were a complex game, what would you have to make sure to do?
Have a way to get back to the old one.
Well, I mean, the data persistence issue would be there, right? I mean, so you'd have to make sure that you have some way of handling that, right? Because if you had a score, right, and you wanted to show the high score, or even show the score that they made, right? If you load a new scene, that score goes away unless you have some way of saving it, right? Which is what we're going to get into shortly. But in fact, the thing we're about to do deals with that. But that is one of the issues with loading scenes, right? Extremely simple games, I suggest not using scenes because it's like more than you need, really. I'm a fan of panels anyway. Anytime you don't need to deal with data persistence, don't. And that's why I suggested using that. Well, I said actually a UI image, right? I'm not going to count off for the loading the new scene, even though it's strictly not what I was asking for. But how did the rest of y'all handle it? Anybody handle it the same way he did, or? It's not. All right. This is just me and Charles. All right. Cool. All right. So that's one of the issues, right? If you look at the console, right? And I don't know that I want to do it. See all the game overs that are actually there, right? Like a lot of them, right? If I collapse them, we can see how many. 501, right? That it got called that many times. So if you look at this, right, you have the update function, which gets called about roughly 60 times a second. And so the countdown is less than or equal to that 0 over and over and over again, right? And this can in a more complex setting, right, calling the handle game over function over and over again could cause issues, right? I don't think I'm going to go into depth on how to handle that, but basically we've talked about, I think, game states. And what you would do is actually, once the game is over, change the game state to game over, and then you only check for this when the game is actually active or the game is playing, right? So that you don't want to call this function over and over. You don't want to call it 1,000 times. That's kind of ridiculous because there could be all sorts of stuff in here that takes a lot of computational power to do, and you don't want to do it 1,000 times because your game might lag or crash or just go in the toilet. All right, so this is not the ideal way of handling this, but it works for this very simple warm-up exercise, right? But we'll talk about more sophisticated ways of doing it in the future. All right. Any questions about that? Any concerns? All right. See, I should be able to, where's the... There it is. All right, so nope. So, all right, so I'm looking at the chat. All right, so there's no questions. All right, let's move on then. Is James with us yet? God, I don't understand that. Okay. So, did everybody download the files for the new thing? Right. All right. So let's do that. My daughter's walking through. All right. So if you haven't done it already, download those files there and there. All right. And let's look at the book. I'm actually going to minimize that. All right, so this is in the chapter called virtual reality and extra features, right? We can talk about the virtual reality thing later, right? But this is the saving and loading player data using static properties. All right. Once you download that second link, right, you will have this game higher or lower Unity package, right? So let's go ahead and we're going to create a new project. Hopefully everybody's with me because now we're not doing the other thing, right? So this is you can tune back in if you were tuning out, right? So hopefully everybody is. So we say new project. Everybody text me or something and tell me that they're with me because I don't know. The only person that's... All right, good. All right, so Will, Nick, Jacob, Charles, Katie, Brian, you back? And the other Brian Booth, Mr. Booth. Well, It's recording anyway, so we'll just go with it. All right. This is 2D project, right? So we'll just do that. Last name underscore T. Data persistence P1 part 1 because we're going to have several of these, right? And then I want to navigate to the folder I want it in. Assignment. This is going to be 03 data persistence. Create. Select. And then create. If you use telestream audio. So it's saying audio now. So. Okay, so we have what? All right, it's still working. It's not going to open two. Oh man! All right. Deal with that in a minute. It looks like it's going to open up two instances of Unity, which something you couldn't used to do, but that's a function of Unity Hub. I think maybe two different versions of Unity. So we'll see. No, that's weird. All right. See, I don't consider that a feature, but I guess they do. So I'm gonna quit this one. All right. All right. So we got a new project. Per the instructions from the book, right? Getting ready. Create a new project, and you're going to import the game higher or lower package, right? So go to where you downloaded the files I told you to download, and there should be a package here that you're going to double click on. And it should give you the import screen. And we're going to import those. All right, there we go. Moving on. All right, add each of the scenes to the build in the sequence. So scene 0 main menu, scene 1 game playing, and so on. Right? So you'll see the scenes folder here, right? Yep. This scenes folder. All right. So you want to open up your build window if you don't remember what that is. Or you go to build settings, like that. And for whatever reason, it's just, I don't know why Unity started doing this, but it always gives you that blank scene. It says deleted. It didn't used to say deleted, but Why it gives you that, I have no idea. But anyway, select all 4 of those like that, and just drag them into your scene, in your scenes and build, right? Like so. You're not building it yet. You're just putting them in the build settings, right? All right. All right. So at this point, you can play the game. We haven't. There's no score yet. All right. So open up scene 0. Yep. All right. And you play that. It is a really awesome game, by the way. So now you can play it. Play. And you're guessing whether the next card is higher or lower, right? Say higher. We won, yay. Then you go to main menu. All right, play again. Lower. You lost. Right. Play game, higher. And how can anybody guess what it's going to be, right? Lower. All right. Anyway, so there's only 2 answers, and it's the same cards every time, right? So not an awesome game by any stretch, but what it's going to do, what we're going to do is keep track of how many times we won and lost, right? And these are different scenes, as we were just talking about the fact that between scenes you lose data, so we're going to solve that issue, right? So let's just stop that and move on. All right, so we're going to create a class to store the number of correct and incorrect guesses made by the user, right? Create a new C# script called player with the following code, right? So I'm going to create a C# script called player. For the record, the way they do this here is not probably the way I would do it, but we can talk about that. We're going to follow the book, and we'll talk about how it could be better later on, right? All right, so C# script called player. So go to your scripts folder, create C# script player. Right. Then we can switch. Actually, I haven't opened this project in Visual Studio. Right. So let me do that. And it always goes.
Hey, Mr. Bevins.
Yes.
I also have all these other scripts that I imported. Should I have done that yet or no?
Imported from where?
It was with the file that you sent with the this whole thing. It was zipped with it.
They're probably already complete. It's probably the completed stuff. So, yeah, they're probably not is the answer. I wasn't aware. I wasn't sure that. Yeah. You could delete. We're gonna recreate those, so you could probably delete them.
Okay, because it was giving me errors. All right, I'll do that right
now. Delete them from your project, not from that folder. Of course, you can re-download them if you need to, but if you want to look at them later. But it gives you the whole solution, right? Everything in Packet Pub, which is it's something you should know, right? If you wanted to cheat, you could send me their files, and whether or not I try to track that down is up to you, really. Again, you'd be cheating yourself, so I'm not worried about it. All right. Anyway, so you ready to go now? All right. So create a player file, player.cs, right? We're opening that up. All right. And now we're going to put this script in there, right? as is normal, I'm not going to delete the start and update function. He has, but I'm not going to do that. Public static int score correct equals 0. Public static int score incorrect equals 0. All right. Do they talk about this one? Static. Does anybody know what static means? That's pretty important. Anybody? Yeah, I'll put this in the notes. What is static electricity? We have somebody chatting at me. Guess not. All right. Well, static is just stuff that kind of exists without anything causing it to exist, right? And static variables are variables that exist, right? Static variables exist without needing an object instance, right? So in other words, right? So we have it, and that may be not the best. That's the definition that I'm coming up with right now, right? So we have this class called player, right? Where we have these two static integers. What that means is I don't have to create an instance of player to have those variables. They exist without ever saying create a new player, right? So the static variables are often called global variables, right? Because they are accessible anywhere in your program. That's important to know, right? So when the scene dies, these static variables are still there. That's the important thing, right? So when the scene dies, they still exist. All right. Scened. That's not what I wanted. All right, back to the book. All right, so in the lower left corner of the scene 0 main menu, create a UI text game object named text-score containing the placeholder text score 99/99. All right, so let's do that. All right, so we're in, which scene did he say? Scene 0 main menu. All right, so we are in scene. Go away. Scene 0 main menu. Create game object UI text. All right, and focus on that. And we're going to name it text-score. score, right? Placeholder text score 99/99. So score 99/99. Listen up. This is very important, right? If you look at the instructions for the assignment, which are somewhere there, make sure your score is visible in your build. If I can't see your score, I can't tell that your code is working. I've had very good students fail in this regard, right? And they've turned things in, and when I look at their build, their score is like off the screen. If I can't see the score, I can't tell that the data is persisting, right? So we have to make sure that that score is visible on the screen. First off, let's make it visible anyway by making it the contrast worth a damn, right? So I'm going to make it yellow, bright yellow, and larger than it is. And all this sort of thing should be fairly routine to you by now, but if it's not, you need to practice a little more, right? All right, so you'll see my scores down there, right? And what some of you do, right, and you notice if I change the window size, it doesn't go anywhere. Right? That's good, because I am in standalone 1024 by 768. The problem that some of you run into is when you build it, you don't change your build settings, and the default is like 900 by 600 or something, and it crops out like this, right? And this is not on the scene, and then you don't test it, and then you send me a build that I can't see the score in, right? So one thing you want to do is make sure you click on the text, click on this the anchor over here, hold down Option, and then just anchor it in that bottom left corner, and then you can change it to whatever size of screen you want to, right? And notice that the score always stays right there, right? The best way to test it is go to free aspect and then just drag your window around and make sure that you notice that the score never leaves your bottom left corner, right? But once you've done that, you can go back to standalone 1024 768, and we're good to go, right? But anyway, we want to make sure that score is visible. That is crucial, right? Any questions about that? I guess not. All right.
No, no questions.
Good. All right. Okay, so we have the text in place. All right, so next, attach the following C# script to the UI game object text score, right? So to the thing we just created, we're going to create this script and attach it to that, right? So update score text is what it's called. Let's go in here, create C# script. Update score text. All right, switch back to Visual Studio. Wait for that. There we go. All right. So in the start function, we have what do we got to go up here and add using Unity engine .ui, right? And then we're going to say I don't like the way they do this, but anyway, we'll do it the way they do it in the book. Text score text equals get component text. All right. Int total attempts equals player score correct plus player score incorrect. What did I do? Right. Sorry. It should be equals. All right. Sorry. Ear reach. Then we go string score message equals score equals score message plus equals, when we add two strings together, what's that called? Anybody? The player code. I'll throw that in our folder, right? There. Was it? Charles, you had the book, right? Because it is in the book, but yeah. Okay, I'll go ahead and throw the other. Let's make sure that's saved. It's not. Save. Update score text. All right, so now you should be able to access it there, right? That's exactly the reason I'm doing that. All right. Score message. So who had the answer for what do you call it when we add two strings together? Big long word for a simple concept. Nobody? That's pretty sad. Concatenation. Remember that? All right. I guess not. All right. So score message plus equals player dot score correct plus total. I didn't concatenate. Total attempts. And then we say score text dot text equals score message.
Hey, Mr. Bevins, you're gonna upload all that to the drive, right? So I'm just behind. That's all. Like,
Were you
it's
paying
lagging.
attention when I uploaded it to the drive right there? See it?
It's lagging to that point right now. Like for me, for some reason, it is far behind you right now. So, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
is it lagging for?
you've got at least a 6 or 7-second delay now. Sometimes it locks up completely, and then it looks like you're a court stenographer sometimes when you're typing. It'll lag, and then you'll type 3 lines real quick.
Okay.
I mean, I can hear your keystrokes, but nothing's coming on the screen.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right now, I got things popping up on my screen.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I didn't want to be rude like that. Like, I'm sorry.
No, you're not rude. I mean, let me know if it's lagging like that. You should definitely let me know that. Is it there now?
It's slowly getting there. Like, we just saw you put the new piece of code, and then you just switched back to your drive. Like, we see your drive, and then...
Well, do you have... In your drive, do you have your drive open?
Yeah, I see the 2 files. I see the update score text and your CS. We have both those.
Okay.
Just you're telling us we can hear you, but what's going on the screen doesn't match.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
My point being, the drive may be quicker than the video chat, so have those files open and refresh readily, and that way, maybe that will be better. I don't know. We're just doing the best we can, I think. All right, so, but if it's really laggy and you're behind, then let me know, but certainly. Are we good now? Are we ready?
Yeah, I'm fine.
All right. Charles?
I believe so. I see you just sitting on the drive, so I think so.
All right, so I'll just make sure those are up to date, I guess. Okay, so done that. Where are we at? Update score text. All right, so in the scene 2, game 1 scene, attach the following C#. Well, I don't think I attached that yet, so I need to go into Unity and actually attach this because I haven't done that. Right, so that needs to go on the game object text. So go into Unity, right, and update score text. We're going to put on our text score object. All right, done that. All right. In the scene 2, game 1 scene, attach the following C# script to the main camera. So increment correct score. Right. So there are scenes. Scene 2, game 1. Save this, right? And increment correct score to the main camera. So we need a new script. Increment. The correct score. Let's see, that's my memory is awful right now. Yes, increment correct score. So and there's only one line in the start function, right? And we'll just say player dot score correct plus plus. And this was when I was talking about, I don't think this is the ideal way of doing this. Creating a whole class for one line of code seems kind of stupid to me. But we can talk about better ways of doing this later on. But we will follow along with his somewhat ill-advised method here. All right, so I will take that, throw that in the drive. Save that. so that goes on the main camera. So we'll go back to Unity. Put that on the main camera. And then scene 3, game lost, we'll do the same thing, except it's going to be increment incorrect score. So change scenes. Scene 3, game lost. Save. All right. Go back to your scripts folder. Increment incorrect score. We're going to create that. C# script. Increment incorrect score. All right. Open that up in Visual Studio. And doing the same thing, right? Players dot score incorrect. Player dot score incorrect. Plus plus. Sorry. All right.
Mr. Ribbons, I got a quick question.
Okay.
What's the difference between doing a plus plus and doing a plus one? Is there any real difference?
Well, plus plus is. I don't know if you can just do a plus one like that, can you? Yeah, you can't.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you can do this, right? You can say plus equals 1, and that's exactly the same thing.
Oh, that's what I meant. Plus equals 1.
No, there's shorthands for the compiler compiles them to the exact same byte code, so there's no difference as far as the compiler is concerned. One's just a shorthand for the other.
I gotcha.
And that's just a shorthand for this. Sorry, player dot score incorrect. That, right?
Okay.
They're both shorthand. That is what the compiler actually puts in there, but they're both shorthands for that. So,
okay.
But obviously, programmers are going to prefer that every time because it's shorter.
Gotcha.
All right, so we got that. All right, so that's essentially everything. I think they do some extra stuff here, which you might do in a second. All right, so yeah, we got time to do that, so we'll do it. That needs to be on the main camera. We're in scene 3. Increment incorrect score, so that's got to be on there. Make sure it's on there. Yes. All right. And now we can go back to the scene 0. Save, and we can play it and have it works. All right. So you see score. All right. Score 0. Right. Play game. Higher 1, main menu, scores 1 of 1, right? Play game, lower, main menu, 1 of 2, play game, leaves again, 1 of 3, play game, higher, 2 of 4, right? So it is between scenes, it is saving your score, which is exactly what you want now. Now the whole discussion is how did that work, right? And the book in its way, which is most of the packet pub things do this, right? They show you how to do it, and then they tell you what you just did, right? Which isn't a bad way of going about it. So the player class uses static class properties, score correct and score incorrect, to store the current total number of correct and incorrect guesses, right? So as I was saying, static variables, right? So we go back to here, player, right? So player is just a container for these static variables, right? And you'll see classes like this a lot in Unity, usually really like player data, right? And it's just has a bunch of static variables that store a bunch of information about the player. And the thing is, we've never created a player. If you go into Unity, there's no. Oh, stop it. There's no player here, right? There's no instance of a player anywhere. Right? Now, often you will have an instance of a player in a game, but that's why if you do, there'll be a player data class that has all that static stuff in it. But a static variable is nothing more like a global variable, right? And then you can access anywhere. Note the difference in syntax when you have that. See how it says player.scoreCorrect, right? When you have static variables in a class like that, right? We don't have an instance of the class, so we actually reference the class itself, which is player, and then dot whatever variable comes after that, right? So that's a very common syntax that you need to be familiar with. So every file that references that says player.scoreCorrect or score incorrect. All right, so let's see. Basically, they're describing what I just said, right? Loaded. All right, so let's see. When the game is running, the user guesses correctly. Then the scene to game 1 scene is loaded. So the start method of increment score correct script component of the main camera in the scene is executed, which adds 1 to the score correct variable of the player class. The game is running, the user guesses wrongly. Then the scene 3 game loss is loaded. So the start method of increment incorrect score script component of the main camera in the scene is executed. So let's see. Let's go gameplay. Let's go in here. So obviously this isn't set out to be a real game, right? Because there's only 2 buttons, and they don't actually. They're not doing anything behind the scenes to figure out if that card is higher or lower, right? So there's no data in the cards, because if you look at the buttons, right, they just take you to certain scenes, right? So the higher takes you to scene 2, and the lower takes you to scene 3, right? Obviously, that's not how you would do this if this were a real higher or lower game, but it serves its purpose. All right. So there's more. There's some details that you don't want to miss, right? Often you don't show a 0 score, right? You wait till there's have some score before you do that, right? So showing a score of 0 out of 0 isn't very professional. So let's add some logic so that the score is only displayed if the total number of attempts is greater than 0. All right, so in the update score text, right? We are coming in here. Let's see if total attempts. We got the total attempts, right? And it looks like yes. So it's after this line, right? And did I don't think I put. Did I put those in the? I don't think I put those in the folder. Did I? Nope. Well, I did incorrect. I did. But let me do that. Incorrect. 'Cause, 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 ' Nick said something. When I tried to add the increment correct score to the main camera in scene 2, it says, can script needs... Nick, you still have an issue with that? Usually that means you named it incorrectly. Can you make sure, go in your script and make sure that the class name is not new behavior? Or get back to me on that one, I guess. All right. That's almost always caused by a misnaming of the class name and the file name aren't the same. Or there's just some kind of parsing error in the script, like you missed a curly bracket or something. But get back to me on that and I'll let you know. All right. Let's see. What was I doing? So update correct score text here. Score message. All right, so he's zeroing out. Let's see, he's going to use that somewhere else though. So we're going to keep that there. Actually, I'm going to copy it. Because what he does here is just he sets it as an empty string, right? You can't define it twice, so do that. Right? All right, so. And he's going to say if total attempts is greater than 0, and then he wraps it up like that. Right? I think so. Oh, actually, he has this outside of it, doesn't he? Yeah, that makes sense. Because you want to display it whether or not it's 0. But in this case, if it's 0, it will be the blank string or the empty string. So Nick, did you solve your issue? Save that, and I'll go ahead and while I'm waiting for him to answer me. All right, so that's there. Is that all we got to do? So. So now it shouldn't show up when you start the game, right? So let's go make sure we're in the main menu, right? Play. And there you go, right? So play game, higher, ta-da, play game, lower, ta-da. I need to get rid of that colon, like stupid, right? Higher. So it is working as prescribed. Nick, can you share your screen with me? See, we haven't tried this, I don't think. So this will be an experiment. I don't know if I have to stop sharing my screen to do that, but Okay. Yes, for now. Yes, do that. Is that the one with the error in it? I don't see an error there. The update score text one with the error.
Using Unity Engine UI as a colon.
Yeah, that's it's expecting a semicolon. It says that, right? Yep. Save it. All right, it says score message. Score message does not exist in the current context on line 15. Go back to that code. Yeah, you didn't find score message anywhere. If you look at the book, there's a score messages. Where is it? Yeah, string score message equals, right? You have to declare something before you use it. You haven't done that. Score manager, I don't know where that came from. There's no score manager in the book. See, that's what happened. Where it says string score manager, that should say message. Yeah. So that gets you up to the point in the book where there's more, right? And there's just that little. He just makes that little alteration there to make it so it doesn't show up when it's 0. Yeah, if that's cool, you can stop sharing now. All right. Sweet. And I will share mine again. All right, so that gets us to page 10, and that's pretty much the assignment for the week. And James never did join us, did he? Nope. No. That is fantastic. I wasn't sure how far we'd get in this, so I'm have to kind of feeling this out how well all this is going to work, right? So, next week I will probably do both the player prefs. Why is it more than that? Well, we'll definitely do the player prefs chapter, which is the next one, next week. Wednesday, since I assume everybody, if you worked along with me, you've done, right? Wednesday, if you don't want to show up at 8 o'clock and you've already done this, then you don't need to, because what I will probably be doing is helping James. If he shows up, if he doesn't, he's in trouble. He's already in trouble because I don't know why he's not here. So, are there any questions about that? I know Nick had some issues. What? Sorry, I'll be at part 8. Okay. Are there any questions? I know Nick is about to catch up. Any questions from anybody else?
None for me.
So we're still kind of getting rolling. I think we're getting a feel for how all this is going to play. So I think next week I'm going to try to ramp it up a little bit. I think all of you can roll along with it, right? The only person I'm worried about isn't with us right this second. And
Mr. Bivens,
yes.
will this be uploaded, the video? I was just playing catch up with my code, and that's it. I didn't see like the stuff that you created, so like I have all the coding and stuff. I just need to get the objects in there.
Yes,
That's
this video will be uploaded. It probably won't be uploaded till Wednesday between 9 and 12, but yeah, because I won't be uploading from home because we have an hour and a half now, and there's no way in hell that I can upload an hour and a half video from here.
Okay, that's no problem. Yeah,
it would probably take 9 hours to do that. But yeah, it will be uploaded. I have been recording it. But yeah, 90 minutes of video from my crappy internet connection is not gonna it's not gonna work for my family. It will bog everything down. But I will stop the recording now because I don't